My boss gave my promotion to his niece, claiming I wasn't ready. When the company went under because of her incompetence, he came crawling back to me, but I had a surprising plan of my own. The day I found out my boss had given my promotion away was like any other morning. I was on the ferry, staring out at the choppy waves of Puget Sound as Seattle's skyline rose in the distance. My coffee was already cold, the way it always was by the time I reached the city, and I was mentally sifting through my to-do list, anticipating another productive day. Except today was supposed to be different. This was the day I was finally getting promoted. I'd been in line for the Director of Operations role at Gresham Technologies for years. 15 years of work, late nights, bending over backward for clients, and sacrificing weekends, holidays, hell, even a couple of anniversaries, all in the name of moving up the ladder. I loved my work. I'd stuck with the company through highs and lows, good bosses and bad ones, believing that loyalty counted for something. But as I walked into the office, something felt off. The usually loud hum of office chatter seemed to quiet down when I passed. I saw a few heads dip down, and some colleagues wouldn't even look me in the eye. It was weird, but I shook it off, telling myself maybe they were just having a busy morning. I barely had time to settle in when my boss, Lyle Harrington, called me into his office. "Ray, got a minute?" His voice crackled over the intercom, a bit too chipper, and my stomach did a small, anxious flip. I took a deep breath and knocked on his door, pushing it open before he even had a chance to respond. "Hey, Lyle. You wanted to see me?" Lyle gestured to the chair in front of him with a big smile that looked like it was plastered on with glue. "Ray, come in, come in. Close the door behind you." I sat down, feeling a sense of excitement swell up. This was it. It had to be. I mean, what else could it be? But then he cleared his throat. "Ray, you know how much I appreciate everything you've done here at Gresham. Your dedication, your loyalty." He was using that careful, measured tone that people use when they're trying to break bad news gently, and I felt my heart sink. I forced a smile, even though the nervousness was starting to gnaw at me. "Of course. I mean, Gresham's practically my second home." He laughed awkwardly, then clasped his hands together on the desk. "So, I've decided to fill the director position." I sat up straighter, nodding. "That's great. I'm ready to take on." He held up a hand, cutting me off. "Now, Ray, I know you've been expecting this, but I had to think about what's best for the company in the long run. And I felt we needed someone with fresh perspectives, a new approach." I blinked, not quite understanding what he was saying.
I thought I brought plenty of new ideas to the table."
"Ray," he said, holding up his hand again, "you're a fantastic operations manager. You're solid. Reliable. And I need you right where you are." That's when it clicked. He wasn't promoting me. "Lyle. What are you saying?" He avoided my gaze, looking down at his neatly organized desk. "I've decided to give the position to Vivian. My niece." I felt like I'd just been slapped. "Vivian? Your niece who just graduated last year? The one who still asks me how to access her email?" Lyle's cheeks flushed, but he put on a look of forced confidence. "Yes. I know she's young, but she's got ideas that, frankly, Ray, we could use. She's got her finger on the pulse, understands what's trending. And she's family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So, that's it? After everything, you're giving my promotion to a kid with zero experience because she's family?" Lyle leaned forward, trying to sound sympathetic. "Now, Ray, this isn't about your performance. You're doing great work, it's just, I don't think you're quite ready for this level yet." I laughed, and I couldn't even help it. A bitter, hollow laugh that caught him off guard. "Not ready? You don't think I'm ready? Lyle, I've been running half of Vivian's projects for her. I practically trained half the people in this building." Lyle's face fell, but he was resolute. "I know, Ray, and I value that. That's why I need you to support Vivian. She's going to need guidance, and I can't think of anyone better than you to help her adjust." Help her adjust. They wanted me to play babysitter while she floundered through a position I'd spent years preparing for. I stared at him, feeling my stomach twist with a combination of anger and humiliation. But there was no point in arguing. I knew when I'd lost. I got up from the chair. "Sure, Lyle. I'll help her adjust." I walked out of his office and made my way back to my desk, trying to process what had just happened. As I sat down, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Melissa, my wife. "So, did you get it?" I stared at the text, feeling a lump rise in my throat. How was I supposed to tell her that all our late nights, all the weekends I'd sacrificed, all the plans we'd made, had just gone up in smoke because my boss's niece needed a career boost? I texted back, "Let's talk tonight." The following weeks were some of the worst I'd ever experienced at Gresham. Vivian, with her wide-eyed optimism and zero experience, was like a hurricane tearing through the office. She made impulsive changes, implemented strategies she'd read about in a top 10 tips for young managers article somewhere, and effectively alienated most of our team. But she had her Uncle Lyle backing her every step of the way, so no one dared to say a thing. But people did talk to me. Every day, someone would swing by my office to vent or give me a meaningful look as they passed. My colleague, Dave, was the boldest. "Ray, this is a train wreck," he muttered one afternoon, leaning against my doorframe. "Did you see her email today about cutting client service hours? She's going to cost us half our accounts." I sighed, not even bothering to hide my frustration. "Yeah, Dave, I saw it. But there's nothing I can do. She's in charge now. Doesn't mean you have to sit by and watch everything burn," he shot back. But what choice did I have? I'd tried reasoning with Vivian, gently suggesting that maybe we hold off on some of the changes she wanted to make, but she'd brush me off with a smile and say, "Oh, Ray, you're just being cautious. We need to shake things up around here." Shake things up. The only thing she was shaking up was our client roster and our profit margin. Projects fell behind, turnover started creeping up, and every day felt like walking through a minefield. One night, I came home and found Melissa sitting at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of tea. She looked up when I walked in, her face creased with worry. "Ray, you're killing yourself over this. I hate seeing you like this," she said softly. I sat down across from her, rubbing my temples. "What am I supposed to do, Mel? I've put everything into this company. I thought I'd finally get what I'd earned. And now, they've got me babysitting Lyle's niece while she runs the place into the ground." Melissa reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "Then maybe it's time to let it go." I shook my head. "It's not that simple. I've been with Gresham half my life. It's my reputation, my work, It's not worth your health, Ray. Look at you. You're barely sleeping, you're stressed all the time. You deserve better." She was right, of course, but leaving felt like giving up. I'd invested so much in this place. But as the weeks dragged on, and things continued to go from bad to worse, I started to realize that maybe holding on to Gresham wasn't the same as holding on to my dignity. And then it happened. Vivian made her biggest blunder yet. She decided to go after Tech Solutions, one of our most loyal clients, with a high-risk, high-reward proposal that was completely unrealistic. She wanted to revamp their entire infrastructure with an unproven software package that hadn't even passed testing yet. The Tech Solutions team was furious, and within days, they'd pulled out of their contract. When Lyle called me into his office again, I had a feeling it wasn't to thank me for guiding his niece. "Ray, I'm going to need your help with this Tech Solutions fallout," he said, his voice tense. He looked more stressed than I'd ever seen him, dark circles under his eyes and a twitch in his jaw. I crossed my arms, leaning back in the chair. "Oh? I thought you had a director for that now." Lyle's face flushed. "Look, Ray. Maybe I made a mistake with Vivian. But I need you to help us get things back on track." I stared at him, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction mingled with resentment. "You need me now?" "Yes."
I may have underestimated some things.
"But you're the one who knows this place inside and out. You can fix this." I took a deep breath, considering my response. The old me would have jumped at the chance to prove my worth, to be the hero. But that man was tired. "You know, Lyle, I've given everything to this company. And for what? So I could be told I wasn't ready? So I could watch someone less qualified destroy everything I've worked for?" He had the decency to look ashamed. "Ray, I'm sorry. I should've." "Save it," I cut him off. "I'm done, Lyle. I've already started looking elsewhere, and I've got an offer from Innovatech that respects what I bring to the table. I'll finish my projects here, but after that? I'm out." Lyle's face fell, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Ray, come on. We can work something out." "No, Lyle. I don't want to work something out. I want to work somewhere that values me. Somewhere that doesn't treat my loyalty like a joke." I walked out of his office, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. The day I left Gresham Technologies, I took one last look at the office. It felt surreal, saying goodbye to a place I'd poured so much of myself into. But as I walked out, I knew I was doing the right thing. Starting at Innovatech wasn't just a new job, it was a fresh start, a place where I was respected and appreciated for my skills. It took leaving to finally realize that loyalty only matters when it's mutual. And as for Lyle? Last I heard, he was struggling to keep Gresham afloat without me. Funny how the tables turn, isn't it? It didn't take long for the news of my departure to ripple through the industry. Apparently, word spread fast that Gresham's top manager, the guy who'd kept the operation smooth as clockwork for years, had packed up and left. I knew Gresham was in trouble, and I could only imagine what was happening in those offices now. Vivian, inexperienced and in way over her head, was running a sinking ship with her uncle clinging to the helm, desperate to keep things afloat. About a month after I started at Innovatech, I received a message on LinkedIn from someone I hadn't heard from in years, Brian O'Malley, Tech Solutions VP of Operations, the very client Gresham had lost in Vivian's disastrous bid. Brian and I had worked together on multiple projects over the years, and I'd earned his respect with my practical, results-oriented approach. Apparently, he'd been waiting for the right moment to reach out. Ray, the message read, heard through the grapevine that you've left Gresham. I've been meaning to reach out. I know you were the brains behind everything that went smoothly there, so I'd like to catch up soon if you're interested in some consulting work with us. I smirked, not even trying to hide the satisfaction bubbling up. I responded immediately, setting up a lunch meeting with Brian the following week. The timing couldn't have been better. The meeting was over lunch at an upscale seafood spot in downtown Seattle. We reminisced a bit, chatting about mutual projects and the old days. But soon enough, we got to the heart of it. Ray, I won't lie, Brian began, when Tech Solutions ended things with Gresham, it was a tough call. We had a lot of history, but Vivian. Well, she clearly wasn't you. I chuckled. I heard about that. Sounds like you dodged a bullet by getting out when you did. He nodded, a serious look on his face. Honestly, Ray, I'd love to bring you on board as a consultant. I know Innovatech is treating you well, but Tech Solutions has a pretty big overhaul coming up, and I'd trust you to make it happen right. Plus, we have some inside scoop that Gresham's really struggling right now. Thought you might want in on this. Oh? I replied, my interest piqued. What do you mean, inside scoop? Brian leaned in, lowering his voice. Apparently, Gresham's having to let some people go to cover the losses from those botched projects. Rumor has it Lyle is scrambling for investors and has been trying to lure back former clients. I even got a call last week, can you believe that? Lyle himself, practically begging us to reconsider doing business with them. I couldn't help the smile spreading across my face. I could picture it perfectly, Lyle, the man who couldn't admit his mistake to save his life, now desperately trying to salvage the company he'd nearly run into the ground. So he called you, huh? What did you tell him? Brian laughed, shaking his head. I told him we're already in talks with Innovatech, working with some of the best minds out there. He raised his glass to me, his eyes gleaming with mischief. In other words, we're talking to you. It felt like the best kind of victory, a quiet, satisfying retribution. Here I was, helping my new company win deals and lock in clients Gresham could only dream of. And the best part? I hadn't even lifted a finger against them. I'd simply walked away and let their own mistakes catch up with them. Over the next few months, things at Innovatech kept getting better. They promoted me to a senior position after just half a year, recognizing that my experience and relationships in the industry were invaluable. I was leading major projects, with a team that respected me and colleagues who supported each other. It was everything I'd wanted at Gresham but could never get, thanks to Lyle's short-sightedness and Vivian's nepotistic climb up the corporate ladder. One day, as I was preparing for a major presentation for Tech Solutions, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email, from Lyle Harrington. Subject, a conversation? I nearly laughed out loud reading it. Here he was, crawling back after everything that had happened.
For a second, I considered deleting the message and forgetting about it.
But then I thought, why not see how deep this hole of his had gotten? I opened the email. Ray, I know things didn't end on the best terms. But I'd really like to have a conversation with you. Things at Gresham have been challenging lately, and it's become clear how much we relied on your expertise. If you'd be open to discussing a potential return to Gresham, at a significantly higher level, I'd love to talk details. The company could really use your insight right now. I stared at the screen, a twisted sense of satisfaction creeping in. This man, who'd once told me I wasn't ready, was now practically begging me to come back and save his company. And while I wouldn't have minded the raise he was probably dangling like a carrot, I knew there was no way I'd ever return to Gresham, not after everything. Still, I couldn't resist responding. Lyle. Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate the offer, but I'm happy with my position at Innovatech. I'm finally working somewhere that values my experience and dedication. Best of luck with the challenges at Gresham, sounds like you could use it. Best, Ray. I sent it off and leaned back in my chair, feeling a deep sense of closure wash over me. It wasn't about revenge, it was about finally standing up for my worth. I'd spent years thinking my loyalty and hard work would pay off, that the right people would recognize it if I just kept my head down and did what was best for the company. But sometimes, you have to leave to make people realize what they've lost. Not long after, I heard through the industry grapevine that Gresham Technologies was sold off to a smaller competitor. Vivian and Lyle were let go as part of the acquisition, which was almost poetic in a way. They'd built a house of cards, and without someone like me holding it all together, it had collapsed. On the day I heard about the sale, I went out with Melissa for a celebratory dinner. We clinked glasses, and she smiled at me, proud and relieved. You did it, Ray. You finally got what you deserve. And she was right. I'd found a place where my efforts were valued, where I could grow and lead without constantly questioning my worth. I'd taken back control of my career, my life, and my happiness. As I walked out of the restaurant that night, hand in hand with Melissa, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. Lyle and Vivian had lost more than just their company, they'd lost the respect of everyone around them. And I'd gained so much more.